Welcome to Face2Face. This is a show about change and about what's next. It's a show that wants to ask questions, peel back the layers of our average everyday experience, and go beyond scratching the surface. We interview amazing people with incredible ideas and stories who have done wild, weird, and wonderful things. Remember that imagination shared creates collaboration, and collaboration creates community, and community inspires social change. I'm David Peck, and this is Face2Face. So my next interview is one of those that comes along every now and then where I step back and I say, wow, what a privilege to get to know this person a little better, to step into this world, to step into somebody's life in a way that allows me a new perspective. And Zaradasht Ahmed is one of those people. He's one of those filmmakers. He's a storyteller. He's a journalist. And we're talking about his film today, Nowhere to Hide, but we get into so much more than just the film. We talk a little bit about the technical aspects of how difficult it was to make a film about the Iraq War and what's going on there in post-conflict and post-occupation in central Iraq, actually, in an area called the Triangle of Death. And if that hasn't got your attention, I'm not sure what will. But you need to see this film. This is a film that was difficult to make. It's not character-based. It's very much driven by kind of the events that unfold for a man who's a nurse, who's a healthcare provider, but a family man who cares about his community. He cares about his country, and he cares about others in a way that I think is compelling for us, but also a real challenge. And watch as Nori and Zaradasht attempt to humanize the victims of this crazy conflict, this ongoing war in Iraq. So stay tuned. I think you're going to really enjoy this conversation about the film Nowhere to Hide. And don't forget, face2facelive.ca for more interviews. We're over 300 interviews now recorded, and moving forward, I don't know what the next 300 are going to be like, but stay tuned. And don't forget, you can also support the work that I'm doing here on patreon.com and rabble.ca for more information about other podcasts as well. Stay tuned. Zaradasht Ahmed and Nowhere to Hide. Well, welcome to Face2Face. We are joined by a very special guest here with us today. Zaradasht Ahmed is here with us. He's a filmmaker. He is a documentarian. He's a storyteller and a guy with an incredibly important story to tell. Zaradasht, thanks for joining us here today.
You are welcome.
We're here to talk about your new film, Nowhere to Hide. Before we dive in, I know you're in New York, and we're doing this interview through Skype. But tell us just where you've been the last couple of days. I understand you were in Washington. You're in New York. We're on the edge of a theatrical release of your film. Tell us a little bit about what's been going on and what you've been enjoying at the film on the film festival circuit.
Well, it's been a long journey since we got the grand prize at ITFA, the world's largest film festival in Amsterdam, November 2016. And ever since, the film has been just like a tornado for us. It's been a tsunami of demand to see the film. I've been almost in all continents throughout this last month, but briefly, last May and June, July, it's dedicated to be in state and go with the film. We started from Breakshare International Film Festival in the beginning of June, and then I came back to New York. Then I left for AFI American Film Institute Film Festival, and now I am back here. But before AFI, we also had in New York the opening night at Human Rights Film Festival in Lincoln Center, which it was very successful evening, and we were awarded one of prestigious awards for courage filmmaking. Both my protagonist Nori Sharif and I. So now we are preparing for the theatrical release in June 23rd to June 29th in New York, and then later on it's leaving for LA.
So Zaradasht, it sounds like you've been very busy. I don't know when you found time to sleep, but before we dive into the film, and I want you to sort of unpack a little bit more about the story. Congratulations! It's a remarkable film.
Thank you.
It's a film. I say this a lot. My students need to see it. My listener, everyone needs to see this film for so many reasons. Of course, it's about the Iraq War. It's about violence. It's about terrorism. It's about reaching out to others. It's about loving your neighbors. I mean, the list goes on. You've covered so much ground, and
Thank you.
And you've chosen Central Iraq to tell your story. Can you give us a little bit of perspective on Nori? And even from a filmmaking perspective, Zaradasht, you've really kind of you've combined not only your perspective and storytelling, but his as well, in a really quite an interesting way.
Yeah, it's been a very hard process to be honest about that making the film, because such films are very difficult to make. One reason it's you have to deal with the safety issue, which was very dangerous both for Nori in the first place, and then the filmmaker, which was me, and also to cover just to gather and make a film, gather information, gather stories, and trying to put them together and make a film about Iraq War. It was very difficult because, as you know, Iraq been throughout these last 30, 40 years from war to war. It's been one war ended, another started again, all back to Gulf War 80s and then 90s, Great War, and then later on the sanctions, and then 2003 invasion by the American troops and the alliances. So Iraq never been resting, and that also caused a lot of distrust and a lot of, in a way, conspiracy about those who come to Iraq in order to film or in order to make a documentation or a reportage or just working as a journalist. It's almost impossible. So these were the challenges all the time we had to deal with it during the process of making the film. The other thing was, in the beginning, together with a Norwegian doctor, we wanted to document about the Iraq War. Not character-based. Nori Sharif was not in the film in that way we portrayed him later. We wanted to document the war in Iraq. For that, we went there and we found out this area that I was interested in. It was almost impossible to go there, and not almost. Some of the places was literally impossible. They call it no-go zone, so literally it's no-go zone. But through this doctor, this Norwegian war surgeon doctor, which he's been working for many years in Iraq, he's been building a really good network of medic, which we could rely on. He introduced me to that network, and we were thinking maybe through that network we can get an insight, an access.
So you had a relational connection. you were embedded. You were on the inside.
Yeah, but not on the right side, not in the wrong side.
Right.
Because my choices was I was not embedded. I could choose. That's why I had two choices: either embedded with the American, or embedded with the local authority, or the rebels or the